Welcome to my spoiler talk of Avengers Endgame. And in this video, I'm going to go over my top 5 moments, my top 5 MVPs, one of my worst characters I think there is, and just a couple follow-up questions I have about the film. So let's get into moment number 5 is everybody is back. And in this moment, everyone, absolutely everyone in the Marvel Cinematic Universe seems to come back through Doctor Strange's portals, and it is a sight to behold. It's really just a display of the achievement that the MCU has gathered for the past 11 years. The thing I love about this moment is that it comes after a kind of a moment of despair and just when all hope is lost. It seems like Captain America and Iron Man and Thor are kind of at the end of the rope against Thanos. And then he finally has all of his armies there. It seems like, yeah, you know what, if we go down, we can go down fighting. Doesn't matter. You know, Cap tightens up his shield on top of like a freaking wound, and they're all ready to go sacrifice themselves. And then just like that, you see one little Doctor Strange portal open up, and I forget who comes through because I've only seen the movie once. Forgive me, plan on seeing it again. And then you kind of see in the background other little portals start opening up, and then just everybody's there. So it's just an amazing moment, I think. Number 4 moment is Tony's 5 years later. The movie jumps whole 5 years after the Thanos snap, and a lot has changed about these characters. And I love that Tony has kind of moved on. Like, he's married Pepper Potts, I assume, and he has a daughter, and, you know, he's living, honestly, his best life. And that was just amazing to see. I do think there's a missed opportunity here. I really thought they were going to go for that Superman, the man who has everything. And if Tony has to sacrifice his happy life, like if he goes back in time and it changes things, that means his current life won't happen with his daughter. I thought they were going to go down that path, and I thought Tony was going to have to make a really, really difficult decision. But no, they kind of glossed over it, and I think in a fairly smart way. I just think it could have impacted more of what he's really willing to give up. Number 3 is Scott gets reunited with his daughter. So in these 5 years has passed, no one has no idea where Scott Lang is. They just thought he got snapped away with everyone else. But no, he was just stuck in the quantum realm. But he comes back, has no clue what's going on. He goes back home and he sees this little girl. It's not a little girl anymore. And this was one of the moments that I definitely was starting to tear up. I think because I have a daughter, and if I left her and she's, you know, yay high, and I come back and she is like a woman now, like that moment hits on so many different levels. At number 2 is Captain America uses Thor's hammer Mjolnir. And this was one moment where I got hyped. I've never been hyped in a Marvel movie before. Like this moment, I was like, yes, yeah. Like Thor just getting pounded. Seemed like he's about to get killed. You know, Thor's hammer gets swung, and then Captain America just grabs it. You're like, yes, he is worthy. Like it goes all the way back to Voltron, which I don't really care for that movie all that much. It's fine. Where he kind of just nudges the hammer a little bit. I'm also glad there was some payback for that moment, because at first, I mean, it's still the case, but Thor just like gets his hammer. And I'm like, dang, Thor, you still haven't gotten over losing that hammer. Like, you have a new hammer now, and it's made up of Groot. And you remember when you know, got the whole star thing you almost risked your life for, you know? But he's, you know, still a little insecure. Number 1, of course, is Tony dying. And the build up to this moment, you know, Thanos finally has the Infinity Gauntlet again. And Tony grabs it, and because it's the Iron Man armor on the gauntlet, which looks pretty cool, you know, he can easily get the gems to flow through him. And then I just love that moment of, you know, Thanos saying, I am inevitable. And then Tony saying, I'm Iron Man. And then just boom. That honestly is one of the best payoffs of a movie that I've seen maybe ever. It is a terrific moment. It goes all the way back to the first film. On to my worst character in the film is absolutely Thor. I hated what they did to Thor in this movie. Like, you know, in those 5 years later, oh, Thor's gotten really fat. Likes to drink beer all the time. And one thing, that suit looked horrible. And it just didn't take the movie that seriously. Like, these things are happening. You could have done that, and Chris Hemsworth could have added his butt off that he is just so freaking depressed about life and everything, without having to add on a fat suit and a big old chunky beard that looks fake. and hair that looks like dreaded. And I think that completely ruined his moments with his mother. Like, he played it up so comedically that he wasn't able to feel so sincere with her. I mean, and those moments are still fine, but it could have just hit home way more. But on to my favorite characters. Number 5, surprisingly, is Nebula. I mean, in these 5 years, and even a couple years before that, you're just seeing how much this character has grown. And it worked so well to mirror that with her actual self 7 years ago. I mean, and just her relationship with Tony Stark. I think all of that done was really well and just provided so much character growth for her. Number 4 is Hawkeye. They start this movie with Hawkeye and his family, and man, fate dealt a terrible hand to him because the chances of 4 out of 5 family members being snapped away is really unlikely, and yet he was dealt the worst hand. You understand why he would go off and become a vigilante. Like, he's lost kind of all hope. And I absolutely love that line with him and Natasha, of him saying like, no, don't do that. Don't try and make me feel hope. And then she says, I'm sorry I couldn't make you feel it earlier. Something to that extent. But that was a terrific dialogue there. Number 3 is, speaking of Natasha. Her sacrifice, I think, was done really well. And I love her and Hawkeye's relationship and which one's going to be the one to sacrifice each other. You really didn't know as an audience member. Like, they went back and forth in, fairly realistic ways. And, her ending was, I think, done really well. Number 2 is Captain America. I love how, after they kill Thanos that first time, the Cap goes and he goes to these, groups and he's leading them. That proves that you can be a hero in more ways than one. Also goes back to Sam Wilson doing those groups like he used to do in The Winter Soldier. And, Cap finally got to have his happy ending. Despite the fact that, we all love comic characters, we all feel like they need to just be that character all the time. They always have to be the hero. I love when they get a happy ending. Like, I love that when in Dark Knight Rises, that Batman gets a happy ending. I love that Captain America, despite, I don't know what type of plot holes it has, he gets to go back and be with Peggy. Like, these heroes deserve this. Number 1 is, without a doubt, Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, aka Iron Man. He is Iron Man. He always will be. I think, his performance in this film was one of his best he's ever done in the Marvel Cinematic Universe since Iron Man 1. I mean, you really get a sense of who he is, of what he's willing to do, what he's willing to fight for. And I absolutely love just how everyone else reacts to him. Love his funeral scene. It was done perfectly. I think this might have been one of the other times that I welled up a little bit. Gosh, dads and their daughters, like the daughter at the funeral, that was done so well. All right, a couple follow-up questions I have about this film. So I have a question about Peter Parker. Like, this isn't making sense to me because if he got snapped, he goes back to school, there's his friend. Unless his friend also got snapped. And then you go and look at the upcoming movie, it seems like all of his friends are the same age. So what's the chances of all of them getting snapped at the same time? I mean, I understand if like, oh, hey, whoever gets snapped away, like now they go back to that same grade. Like, they still gotta go to school. But their friends who lived, like, they're way older now. Like, they're in college and stuff like that. And then when it comes to the time travel aspect of it, I mean, how does that affect everything? Because Captain America does go back in time and he's with Peggy. How does that affect everything else about the Marvel Cinematic Universe? The thing about this movie is that there are honestly hundreds of plot holes for the previous movies. And I think those are really hard to explain away. But you know what? Sometimes that doesn't matter. All right, those are my thoughts. Please like and comment what your favorite moments and characters were. Please subscribe, and sincerely, thank you for watching. I'm out.